just like that, originally I had this distracting keep out sign that drew your eye immediately down to the corner. And I was able to use the transform tool and a little bit of the clone stamp tool to put this in here. Now, you'd be hard pressed to know that I made an edit if you didn't know. All right, so got this shot of Stephanie, fabulous model from San Antonio. Like the angle was kind of shooting up. I think I was at 32 millimeters here, using my Tamron 28-75. Like the shot. I like the composition the way it is. Initially, I'll show you the before Lightroom edit. My lines were a little bit crooked. I'm always embarrassed to show these, but I don't get this stuff perfect straight out of camera sometimes. So I don't know. My lines are a little bit off. And then with the Photoshop edit, I made the photo a little bit cooler with the white balance. Did the typical stuff. I brought the contrast pretty far up. I usually don't bring it up that high, but I liked it. So just some basic edits, whites, blacks, vibrance up a little bit. That's it. Straighten out my lines. And I like the crop the way it is and the composition. So the only thing that's really bothering me now about this shot is the keep out sign down here. Now you could argue, it's sort of environmental, but not really, I guess, this shot. But, sometimes signs and things like that, they're part of the environment and they fit with the environment. This to me doesn't really fit with the environment, and I want the eye to go straight to her. The way the lines are in it, I kind of look up from toe to head. That's the way the lines are taking me, right? And then my eye goes down to the corner to that keep out sign in the red. So it's just a distraction for me. You might like it. It's a judgment call. But for me, I want to remove it. So I'm going to show you how to remove this using the transform tool. And why not like the clone stamp tool or something like that? Because we got this thing going on called perspective. Now, let me open this up in Photoshop and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So there's this thing called perspective. Now, if I was going to clone stamp and I'm like, I can just take the clone stamp and clone stamp this stuff down here. Well, there's this thing called perspective. All these lines, they're going up and eventually they're going to meet at a point, right? And the size, you see the width of these lines, they're decreasing as we go down, but it's not just the width, it's the angle. If you look up here, the angle of the blinds there is like that. The angle of the blinds down here, whoops, I kind of messed that up, is about like that, right? And as you get down here, the angle of the blinds is kind of more straight across, right? And so the angle, as you see, is changing as we're moving up, right? And so I can't just clone this and put it down here. It's not going to work. So what I'm going to do instead is copy this, put it down here, and then I'm going to use the transform tool and specifically the distort tool to kind of distort the lines and get the perspective so that the angles are correct. So let's do that real quick. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my polygon lasso tool. It's actually called polygonal lasso tool. We're going to grab that. And I'm just going to kind of guesstimate, but I'm going to grab right here where this black is. And by the way, I'm going to link this file below. So you can use the same image as me and follow along, okay? And hopefully I don't leave out any steps. When I was learning, people would leave out a step and I would get lost and I would follow them to a T and it wouldn't work. Whatever I was doing in Photoshop, it drove me crazy. So try not to leave out any steps for you guys, okay? So I clicked once here. I'm just doing this on the background layer for now. You can create a new layer if you want by hitting Control J if you don't want to mess up your background. But I'm going to do my second click right there. And then I'm going to come across, I'm going to follow the lines of the shades. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to change them anyway. But I'm just kind of guesstimating the size that I'm going to need because I'm going to copy this area down and then I'm going to paste it on top of that keep out sign, right? So I'm just trying to go right there to that line. And then my last click should be right on my first click and it should give you these marching ants, right? So my last point that I click is going to be my first point, and that joins it, right? Gives me the little, they call them marching ants. So now I've got this selection, and it's trapezoid, I think, 5th grade geometry. I don't know. I'm not smarter than a 5th grader, I guess. So then I'm going to choose, you can either do Control C on the keyboard or edit copy. Where is it? Right there. And that just copied this selection, right? And then I'm going to choose edit paste or Control V on the keyboard. It's going to paste it. Now, I can't see any difference, right? But I do see that a new layer was pasted over here. And if you actually zoomed into that layer, if you look, that little piece that I copied and pasted is right here. So I can't see it over here, but it pasted it directly on top of where I copied it. So you can't even see it. It looks identical. But if I go up here to the top and grab my move tool, hopefully you don't have the artboard tool. I've never actually used that tool. Don't even know what it is. Move tool. And if I come over here and click and drag this now out of the way, you see that there it is. So now I know where it is. And we get back to that thing called perspective. You copy this down here and you see that what I'm talking about, the angles, it just doesn't really work, does it? This line is working pretty well though. Now, if you don't have this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to line this up perfectly. These sort of, they're not exactly vertical, but these lines going up here, I was able to line those up. So at least I got one side, right? But you see this, the angles, I just copied this from right here. The angle is just, it's all wonky, right? The way it's when I moved it. So now what I'm going to do, make sure this layer is still selected, that you didn't go clicking somewhere else on the background or whatever. Layer 1 here, and that is this piece here. Go up to edit, and then I'm going to choose transform, and then I'm going to choose the option distort. I've tried warp, I've tried perspective. They don't do what I need them to do for this particular instance, okay? So that is going to put a selection handles around that selection, right? And I can grab these and move them, right? But what I want to do is shape this thing so that it fits perfectly in here. So I know that if I grab this handle down here and I pull straight down, look at that. It's even changing the angle, right? And now I'm going to line it up kind of with the bottom down there and try to get that sort of lined up, right? I've got the bottom relatively lined up. It threw me off over here a little bit. So I'll grab this handle, try to line that up again. But now this angle's still off, right? But I can pull this down. Look at that. Try to line up the angle with the one above there. And then if I want to, I can use, actually I'm going to use I could pull this out a little bit. I'm trying to line this up again. But if I use the left arrow key on my keyboard, which is right next to the control key on the right side, up, down, you guys play games, right? Up, down, right, left. Use the left arrow key in my case. I don't know if you're following along what yours looks like. Hopefully you didn't mangle it by now, but I'm just trying to line this up like pixel by pixel. So if I use the left arrow key, look at that. It brings it over. I hit it twice and it lined it up perfectly. So that was kind of a little bit easier for me. So now, this is not perfect. I'm going to Control Plus will zoom you in, and then you can hold the space bar down. That gives you the hand. You can move your canvas around, right? Control Plus again. This looks pretty good, actually. I'm going to kind of line this up a little bit better, maybe to there. So now I got that corner right there, sort of. It's almost too perfect, but I think once you zoom out, if you didn't know this stuff was there, I'm going to bring that over just a little bit, make sure my angle, see that kind of messed that up a little bit. So bring that right there again. So we're going to have to, I'm going to commit this and then we're going to have to blend this right here, okay? To commit this, once you get it lined up perfectly by grabbing these handles and doing whatever you need to do to get it lined up, hit enter, and that commits the change. And look at that. I mean, if you're just looking at this part right here, it's lined up. It looks great. This was already imperfect right there. That's the way it was, right? All I did was paste down here. I'm going to try to blend this in right here, just so you don't see this line. So let's do a new layer. Come down here, hit the plus. Remember, this layer is that little piece, right? So, I mean, just like that, we've removed the sign. But we want to kind of fix this right here. Okay, so go up to this new layer that you created, layer 2. Well, if you want to, you can double click on layer 1 and it will write over the text, and you can type in sign if you want. Layer 2, I don't know what we call this. Blend. We'll call this blend because that's what we're doing, is we're blending. So I'm going to come here, come back to my polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to come here. We're going to make another selection, and we're going to come down here, right here, right here, and we just want to overshoot it a little bit up to here. Make sure you try to get right on the lines. Close that last one up. So now anything I do is going to be contained within this rectangle, poly, trapezoid. You know what I mean. So go back to the clone stamp tool. So clone stamp the same area, and hopefully, like if I come out here, it's not going to clone stamp anything, right? You will still get ghosting though, but hopefully you can contain it. See, I'm just kind of trying to blend this a little bit. See that? So it's not just such an obvious line, right? So that worked well. That was a little bit easier. It kept me inside the lines much easier. So I'm going to just click on my rectangular selection tool, just click one time anywhere and that deselects. And I got a little bit of ghosting right here. So let's go back to the clone stamp tool and let's try to see this line right there. Let's try to fix that by cloning Alt, hold the Alt down, clone that right there. Let's see if we can kind of fix that a little bit. I grabbed another spot, making it worse. This is tedious. See, I mean, I've been doing this a while, and, you know, even I have a hard time sometimes. Right there. That'll work. It's a little rough right here. So even I have a hard time. It's not perfect. I think if we do one more here, hard time getting this stuff sometimes. There we go. That's a little more believable when you zoom out. So that's pretty good right there. There's one little blind here that looks like it's, you know, a little bit different color, but I think we're in good shape here. If you, let's hold down the Shift key and we'll group these together. Control G. So again, I'll undo that, Control Z. I got these two layers. I'll hold the select layer 1, hold down the Shift key, select layer 2, and it selects both of them, right? And then I can hit Control G. That puts them in a group together. Now I can control whether I see both of these layers at one time by just turning the eyeball off. Now you can see that just like that, originally I had this distracting keep out sign that drew your eye immediately down to the corner, and I was able to use the transform tool and a little bit of the clone stamp tool to put this in here. Now you'd be hard pressed to know that I made an edit if you didn't know. It's a little bit perfect down here on the bottom. This blind's a little darker than the other ones, but who knows? Maybe nobody's going to know that it. Maybe that's how it was originally. So I don't know. Was it like that originally? Let's see. It was. See that? So that's originally how it was. We just had, you know what it is I think maybe the shadow from the keep out sign is blocking some of the light. Maybe, I don't know. So just like that, we're done. For me, this looks a lot cleaner, right? There's no other red in this photo that tied into, right? The colors are rather muted, and they're shades of gray and white actually around her. Her outfit is colorful with the purple here inside of this, and just the black and the white with the purple looks very nice, and your eye is immediately drawn to her instead of this one. I mean, my eye is kind of drawn to her, but it kind of goes down to the corner. So that's all there is to it. Again, the file that I use here is going to be linked below, a Dropbox link. You can use that file to follow along. Hopefully I hit every instruction to the T and you're able to follow along. Sometimes I do go a little quickly if you're a beginner. That's what the pause button's for, right? You can pause and rewind and go back, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you, and leave a comment if you liked it, or any other thoughts that you have. And please, if you'd like to, subscribe and give the video a like. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.